Yeah, I think it can be pretty chaotic for any coach, when the portal opens up in college basketball, but certainly when you take a new job and you're in a new conference, it really can complicate things as well.
What's been your approach to the portal right now?
Really no different than it has been for quite some time. I thought that, even at Nevada, we were pretty heavy into the portal and continued that same roster building philosophy when we were at Arkansas. Certainly USC with so many new faces on our roster, we had to go deep into the portal.
So what do these next couple of months look like for you as you continue to not just get everything personally settled down, but everything in your basketball office, kind of the I's dotted and the T's crossed as well?
Yeah, the staff is pretty much set, so now it's about getting the guys on campus, and certainly team building will be really, really important, especially with basically 13 new guys. So getting to understand each other on the floor, off the floor, and then trying to implement some of our core principles on both sides of the ball will be really important as well.
What are those core principles?
That's a great question. I won't know till we're actually together. Certainly, playing with effort, energy, enthusiasm. We talk about the 3 E's all the time. That'll be the core of who we want to be. But then stylistically, defensively, we've never played any zone defense. I would assume that we would stick to that same core principles defensively of being a man-to-man defensive team. We want to play with pace just like everybody would offensively, and then you've got to kind of build your structure around what the strengths and weaknesses of your team are. So certainly want to accentuate all the strengths that we have from individual standpoint, and then collectively, and then try to hide some of our weaknesses that we might have as well.
You've coached at not just multiple schools, but a lot of different levels. As we are in a transition period, especially those schools that are leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten, does your background give you a little bit of a leg up in terms of being more adaptable, more flexible, more willing to change when you have to?
I don't know if it gives me a leg up, but it doesn't. I'm not going to flinch. I mean, if you've coached in the USBL, the CBA, the NBA G League, 2 national teams, college, NBA, I've served a whole bunch of different roles as a head coach and as an assistant coach, and been in part of leagues where your roster changes continuously. So I guess the word I would use is I probably won't flinch, or it won't bother me very much at all, just based on the experiences that I've had, which is a pretty unique background.
And that background, interestingly enough, that you just told me a moment ago, has kind of led you full circle, as you're now located almost exactly in the same spot you were located when you landed your very first job out of school.
Yeah, I'm living right off of Highland in Manhattan Beach, same spot that I moved into, roughly same area, when I was selling tickets for the Clippers right out of college.
As you start to look ahead to what the schedule may or may not hold, I think it's one of the biggest questions. I'm sure it's been a huge discussion for you guys this week. You have an 18-team league. You go from coast to coast. You're trying to figure out the best way to manage all of that while also keeping some important non-conference games for strength of schedule and to continue rivalries. How do we get to as close of an ideal model as we can possibly get to in a league of this size?
Well, I mean, there's going to be natural rivalries that have existed for many years. I went to high school in Ohio. I know about the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, and you can go on down the line. But I think that there'll also be some rivalries that are going to naturally just kind of happen. Maybe they're different in one sport, and then there are other rivalries in another. That's just kind of how it'll go. And then I think for UCLA and USC and Oregon and Washington, we've got to try to figure out how we're going to handle logistically the travel. That's a big piece. Obviously, your roster, the way that you schedule, the way that you travel, all those things can dictate wins and losses. And I hope that some of the East-West travel that we've done and West-East travel in the NBA will help us kind of figure out how we want to do it, what times we want to leave. Do we want to shoot around when we travel east to west? Because there's a lot of stuff that factors into all this.
From a big picture perspective, let's start with one of the hot button topics and one that's under legislation right now with NIL and the potential of revenue sharing. As a coach, how do you kind of prepare for the unknown with your program and what may happen and what you may have to do to get players and to also keep players on campus?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're all trying to figure that out. I mean, right now it's day by day. I think, until we understand exactly what the landscape looks like, it's hard to build too much into the future. But certainly with where it's heading, we're all hopeful that maybe roster stability will be a little bit more impactful moving forward than maybe what it has been over the last 24 months.
What about tournament expansion? I've spoken with about a half dozen coaches right now, and I think we're about split down the middle for those that think that 68 is the perfect number and those that believe that we should go to something like 96. Where are you in that discussion?
Well, for the last 9 years, I've thought that 68 is perfect, and then when you're out 1 year, then you want to expand it. But I think where it's at right now is totally awesome. It's challenging to make it into the tournament. And when you're not in it, you kind of look back and you can see how hard it is to really get into the tournament. I think the way that it is right now, it's great for the fans, it's good for the student athletes, it's good for the coaching community as well.